So, there's been a few setbacks in Ratcliffe's takeover deal. There was expected to be a deal done and sorted by Thursday, but that's not the case in this newfound breaking story by James Ducker that's got a lot of people excited, saying there's hope for Qatar. Could Qatar swoop in? Are the Glazers delaying this because they want Qatar? To be honest, it has caused a lot of speculation, but the report has stated that actually some people think the Qataris are still interested in Manchester United. A lot of people are doubting whether they actually are serious about pulling out. The Jim Ratcliffe deal's been sort of delayed. What is going on? Well, we're going to dive into that, the news, what was said, my opinions of it, and more. So, the story was breaking. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's 25% purchase of Manchester United is not expected to be put on the club's board on Thursday, as final details are still being thrashed out. However, a deal is still in sight within the next fortnight. So obviously there was a feeling that the deal was going to be sort of Thursday. They said that that's not the case. However, it could be done in the next fortnight. It was also said that there will be no decision this week on Ratcliffe's 25% offer. So despite Sheikh Jassim pulling out, they've said there's going to be no decision within the next week on Ratcliffe's 25% offer. A lot of people have been getting excited, like, why aren't they going to make a decision on this? Why aren't they? The meeting's Thursday. We've been told the meeting's Thursday. Why are they delaying it? Some people are saying maybe Qatar actually withdrew themselves. Not because the Glazers had suggested they're going with Sir Jim. Maybe Qatar withdrew themselves. Maybe the Glazers are annoyed and are maybe delaying this to potentially see if the Qataris could come back in. I'm not ruling that out as a possibility, but personally myself, I don't want to get you guys hopes up. I always try and be honest with you with news. I think it's just the complicated structure and nature of the deal is probably the reasons behind the delays and it not being sort of Thursday. I don't think it's got too much to do with Qataris. But an interesting thing was said by this article, and it was said breaking some key figures inside the deal also remain sceptical that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani has entirely withdrawn his interest in the club. Sources close to the Qatari, however, have reaffirmed their insistence that he told the Glazers last week he'd quit the process. So essentially, there's a few people doubting and a few people inside actually are skeptical about Sheikh Jassim actually withdrawing. It's obviously been said that he's withdrew and all of that, but there are now reports coming out that actually has he really withdrew? Could he be coming back in to beat Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Ratcliffe's deal's delayed. Could there be hope? And I think never say never. I think personally the delay with Ratcliffe's deal is probably because it's such a complicated deal to do. Like, I'd love to say, I think the Qataris are coming back in and I think they're going to win it and I think this was all a game. I'd love to say that. I'd love to feel that way, but I think so many credible people said so much. And I guess with NDAs, no one really knows what's happened with the takeover. Maybe we've been played by this Romano story and everyone's jumped on it. And actually that wasn't the truth because of NDAs. Maybe it was a big play. There's always that possibility. But I'll be honest, I think that they're going with Sir Jim Ratcliffe because I think too much has been said by too many credible people. I think the Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer of 25% is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know why he's giving them that much for 25%. I think the Glazers are greedy and deep down that's what they want to do. And I just think it's a complicated deal because Jim Ratcliffe wants control. Jim Ratcliffe wants to say, Jim Ratcliffe wants to eventually buy out the club, that it's going to take something that's going to take weeks to iron out before it's approved. So personally, I do think Sir Jim Ratcliffe will eventually become the owner, despite this report coming out. But I do have that hope that maybe we can get a full sale, that the Qataris can do something, because as I've said, people are skeptical. A lot of people, when Romano actually broke that story about the Qataris, he said something that the Qataris themselves had refused to comment. And I think he got told that story by someone else. So you just never know with this takeover, with the NDAs, with, so much false information going out. You never know if there's a chance for Qatar or not. The one thing I will say, though, is I think too much information had come out from too many credible people for it to be wrong. But again, you just don't know. I personally think the Qataris have withdrawn. I don't know if they've withdrawn themselves or they've withdrawn because the Glazers have given the indication they're going with Jim. I think if the Qataris have withdrawn themselves, there's definitely a big chance they can go back in if the Glazers actually said, you know what, we're going to accept that last offer you put in, which was around £5.7 billion. With a pledged investment, it went to like $8 billion in total. There's a chance. If the Qataris withdrew themselves because they thought the Glazers were being idiots, there's definitely a chance this can happen. Because the Glazers might be panicking, like, oh no, we've only got Sir Jim now. We haven't got that Qatari option. And maybe they never chose between Sir Jim and the Qataris, and maybe they just the Qataris just withdrew themselves. But I think in the most likely scenario is that the Glazers probably informed the Qataris, unless they pay this amount, they're going with Sir Jim. They told them they're going with Sir Jim and the Qataris have withdrew, so they're going with Sir Jim now. if obviously they get complicated, because remember, Jim Ratcliffe wants a say, and they start asking for 25% and not giving Jim Ratcliffe a say, you never know, Jim Ratcliffe could pull out. You never know this could happen. You never know that could happen. So there's definitely a lot to happen. And I've always said, while I think it's going to be 90% Sir Jim Ratcliffe's, probably 99% Sir Jim Ratcliffe's, it's such a difficult deal to sort on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's side, because there's so many how do you buy the club, if buts and maybes, who gets control of this, who gets control of that. It's going to take a while. There's going to be complications. All the board members have got to agree with it. So if that falls through, there is definitely a chance for Qatar. But I do think, again, if Qatar have withdrawn themselves, there's quite a big chance. But if Qatar have withdrawn because the Glazers said they're going with Sir Jim, which seems to be the case, I think there's only really a chance for Sir Jim. So there's only really a chance for Sheikh Jassim if Sir Jim fails. But there are a lot of people in the media, and this is credible sources. I'm not talking about your ITK accounts that have been making up stuff. These are credible sources coming out saying, you know what, like, there's some doubt. There's some people skeptical if Qatar have really withdrawn. But I'm not going to get hopes up. I still think we're going to end up with Sir Jim. Obviously, we've been told by the media nearly all week there's going to be this board meeting on Thursday to iron out the Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal to get it sorted. That is not the case. That has been delayed. I think it's just been delayed because of the complicatedness of the deal. But I see a lot of people celebrating on Twitter. Everyone I follow is tweeting things. You know, like the Brentford guy that celebrated when Brentford got a goal kick or something, or a corner or something, and then obviously Man United won the game 2-1 in the 90th minute. People saying, oh, it's, you know, Sheikh Jassim coming out in Fergie time and all of that. And I see a lot of people getting really hyped on social media, really excited, going, Sheikh Jassim's coming in Fergie time. And look, this is a good source. There's no meeting on Thursday. There's definitely possibilities. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. But again, I'm going to remain skeptical. I'm not going to get my hopes up, because I know these Glazers, they never give me what I want. They never give me anything to be positive about. But everyone is getting hyped online, but you just know some person's going to come out with a story tomorrow and kill the hype. And the other reason I'm skeptical is Manchester United have been doing so many PR stories lately that I almost feel like someone inside the club knows something and is doing these Jim Ratcliffe PR stories to make me feel like it's going Sir Jim Ratcliffe's way. Now, I'll tell you something that would be a big blow. No full sale, and another big blow would be losing Mitchell van der Gaard. Now, Ajax were looking at Mitchell van der Gaard when they didn't actually want him to go with Ten Hag originally. They actually wanted him for the manager job when Ten Hag left, by the way. But then he actually chose to go with Ten Hag, and obviously Ajax are shocking at the moment, having a lot of trouble. And when people sort of criticise Ten Hag and call Ten Hag rubbish, they need to actually have a serious look at like where Ajax are right now. Like, you thought Man United were bad when Fergie left. The impact that Ten Hag's had on Ajax, it's not as easy as you think. Ten Hag gets a lot of stick from particularly rivals and people in the media with United agendas, but actually look at what he did at Ajax. It's not as easy as people think. But the interesting thing is that Mitchell van der Gaard is apparently open to becoming the new Ajax manager. He's happy as an assistant at Man United, but could be convinced by Ajax. So, you know, this guy obviously has been linked to Ajax recently in the last week. I don't see United letting him go. I don't see him going anytime soon. I think it would be a big blow. When Jose lost his assistant, it was a big blow for him. So I really hope we don't lose Van der Gaard, because I think that would be a massive blow. Now, the last story I want to get into, which doesn't really link with the theme of the video, because we've been talking about, oh, could the Qataris swoop in? But it was actually a link to Dan Ashworth. So it was said that Manchester United could target a key Newcastle figure once Takeover is complete. And we've been speaking a lot about Paul Mitchell. But I think names that we haven't been massively linked to, like Dan Ashworth and like Michael Edwards, could be just as good. Now, I don't think Newcastle would give us Dan Ashworth. And I think if you're Dan Ashworth, you're at a big project at Newcastle where you know the owners are going to give you freedom. If you're Dan Ashworth and you know the Glazers are still there, you're probably skeptical over what kind of freedom would the Glazers give you at United. So I don't know if this deal would happen. But if you don't know who Dan Ashworth is, he was basically a sporting technical director that worked at Brighton. And then when Newcastle got the takeover, he went to Newcastle. And you look at that Newcastle squad, you know, it's not the prettiest squad. They've not got loads of big name, big money signings. Yes, they've spent money, but they spent money smart. They've kept a lot of the core of their squad under Bruce, who were like a relegation team, remember? They've brought in young players. They've promoted academy players. They've brought in more experienced players. Dan Ashworth's rebuild at Newcastle has been really good. He's not gone out like Chelsea, spending 1.4 billion in free windows and stars. He spent 300 million in free windows on young players, players that suit the system, players that suit the team, and responsible for a really good rebuild at Newcastle. And I've always said this, I don't think it would happen, but I'd be a big fan. So I'm going to round off tonight's late night news show now. I'm sure a lot of you are watching this in the morning, as it's going to come out at 11 p.m. I do apologise that I don't look amazing and I sound a bit funny at the moment. I've just been ill, but I feel like I'm out on the mend. But no decision is going to be made on Ratcliffe's offer. There is delays, and look, a lot of people are commenting this. A lot of people are getting excited. I'm not going to get super excited because it's the Glazers, but smash the like button if you want Full Sail. Subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. Share the video. I've just got a big Wi-Fi icon, so I feel like the last 2 minutes of this video might come out blurry. Brilliant. Thank you for watching, though. Bye.